We're live from New Delhi. You're watching Diddy India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. Death toll in Lebanon's pager blast rises to 9,000 injured as hundreds of pagers used by Hezbollah members exploded on Tuesday. Hezbollah blames Israel. No comment from Tel Aviv. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrives in Cairo as urgency to achieve a ceasefire deal in Gaza takes prominence. Lufthansa and Air France suspend flights to Tel Aviv, Tehran and Beirut as tensions in the region soar. Voting underway for the 24 Assembly constituencies in India's Jammu and Kashmir for first phase polls. Assembly elections in the region are the first since abrogation of Article 370 in 2019. And in sports, in the 7th round of the chess Olympiad, the Indian men's team faced China while the women's team to take on Georgia. After 6 consecutive wins, India is eyeing its first ever gold medal in the tournament. And rapper Sean Diddy Combs jailed by Manhattan court in connection with a racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking indictment. Music mogul pleads not guilty. And on to the top story. Death toll in Lebanon's pager blast claims 9 lives, wounding several thousand people. Explosions of hundreds of pagers that were used by Hezbollah members rocked Beirut on Tuesday. Hezbollah puts the blame on Israel, while there has been no comment from Tel Aviv. The United States has denied any role and called for diplomatic solution to the conflict.
Unprecedented explosions of hundreds of pagers used by Hezbollah across Lebanon claimed at least 9 lives. Iran's ambassador to Lebanon was among 2,800 other people who were wounded by the simultaneous blasts. Hospitals in Lebanon are coping with the aftermath of the pager blasts as casualties and those injured begin to rise. At one hospital in Beirut's southern suburbs, people were treated in a car park on thin mattresses. The group blamed Israel for this criminal aggression and vowed just retribution. There was no immediate comment from the Israeli military on the wave of explosions. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has denied any U.S. involvement in the pager blasts in Lebanon.
I can tell you, to my knowledge, there's no U.S. involvement in this at all. Again, it's something that we're monitoring.
The denial by US comes as Washington once again called for a diplomatic solution to tensions between Israel and Lebanon.
It is in everyone's interest to resolve it quickly and diplomatically. So we continue to believe that there should be a diplomatic resolution to this, and so I will leave it there. And well, actually, I'll add, this is why the ceasefire negotiation is so important. This is why the hostage deal is so important. This is why the president and his administration has been working around the clock, 24 hours to get that done.
Israeli military has said that senior commanders have held a situational review with a focus on preparedness in both offense and defense in all spheres. Israeli analysts say that the unprecedented nature of a recent operation targeting Hezbollah showcases a new strategic approach.
I think the greatest achievement here is the confusion that it created among Hezbollah, the psychological damage among Hezbollah, and the fact that somebody can cause that much of a damage without even invading into Lebanon.
The pagers used by Hezbollah members came from Taiwan as per a news report of the New York Times, with explosives packed in sometime before they arrived in Lebanon. Taiwan's Gold Apollo has denied that it made these pagers.
None of the components in that product belong to us. Nothing was exported by us.
Meanwhile, as tensions rise in West Asia, Lufthansa and Air France have suspended flights to Tel Aviv, Tehran and Beirut until Thursday. Bureau Report, Diddy India.
Well, here's what is known so far about the pager blast. Hezbollah terrorists began using pagers to evade tracking of their locations. The detonation started around 12:30 GMT in suburbs of Beirut, the strongholds of Hezbollah. Some of the detonations took place after the pagers rang. The blasts were relatively contained and appeared only to wound the person wearing the pager. Injuries were sustained on the faces, fingers and lower portion of the body where the pager was likely to be worn. Many speculate that the explosions were caused by the device's batteries detonating, possibly through overheating. Speculations also rife that Israel might have infiltrated the supply chain for Hezbollah's pagers. Well, New York Times reported that Israel hid explosive material within a new batch of the pagers before they were imported to Lebanon. Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken landed in Cairo early on Wednesday on his 10th trip to the West Asia since the start of the conflict in Gaza nearly a year ago. Blinken will address negotiation efforts with Egyptian officials. He will also hold talks with Egyptian leadership to strengthen bilateral ties with Cairo. Egypt, alongside Qatar, has been a vital intermediary in US-led diplomacy to end the conflict, shuttling proposals and counter-proposals between Hamas and Israel. Washington has also leaned on Cairo in its efforts to increase the flow of humanitarian aid to Gazans. Well, the second assassination attempt on former U.S. President Donald Trump may add fuel to the fire of already heated election campaigns for November 5th elections. While his supporters are coming out in open reiterating their support, the Republicans are asking why assassination attempt only on Trump. Does it mean there might be such violence in the U.S. elections in coming days? Here's a report by DD India's Akhilesh Suman.
Second assassination attempt on US presidential candidate and former US President Donald Trump has triggered a debate amongst the experts on the need to enhance the security ring around him. But it is now a matter of intense political debate too, with many Republicans raising uncomfortable questions about why only Trump has been on the radar of assassins and not the Democrat leaders. The Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance holds Democratic Party's provocative statements against Trump responsible for such attempts.
If you tell the American people that this person is the end of democracy, if you tell the American people that this person needs to be eliminated, most of them, thank God, are going to ignore you, but some crazy person is going to take matters into their own hands and actually listen to the crazy rhetoric that you're putting out there.
Vance issued a warning to Harris to tone down her voice to avoid further escalation.
Thank God nothing truly tragic has happened to Donald J. Trump's life, but we are very, very close to real problems in this country. Democrats have got to cut this crap out, respect their fellow Americans, debate our differences. Don't try to censor your political opponents, because censorship will eventually lead to political violence. We've seen that now twice in the last couple of months, and I hope Democrats learn the lesson.
White House was quick to deny the accusations hurled by Team Trump.
I want to be very clear here. The president and the vice president have always forcefully condemned violence in all forms, including political violence, and we certainly have never encouraged any violence in any way.
On the other hand, the common American man is getting circumspect about violence becoming more and more pronounced in these elections and wants it to end.
Yeah, I'm concerned for everyone's safety on both sides. The country is so divided right now, and both political parties are so divisive. And I'm hoping that Donald Trump will bring this country back together, somewhere where we can unite around a common goal.
Trying to keep politics apart from such insane acts of violence, the Democratic presidential candidate and US Vice President Kamala Harris has already tried to defuse the situation by calling the Republican candidate after the assassination attempt was foiled. US President Joe Biden has also said that Americans must resolve their differences peacefully at the ballot box and not at the end of a gun. The assassination attempts were not successful, but Nevertheless, they have triggered a political slugfest that threatens to engulf this entire presidential campaign like none before. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
Well, the U.S. Senate on Tuesday failed for a second time to advance an in vitro fertilization protection bill as Republicans voted against it days after Donald Trump surprised supporters by voicing support for such a policy. The bill failed a 51-44, falling short of the required 60-vote threshold after most Republicans voted against it for the second time. Democrats controlled the chamber by a slim 51-49 margin. The legislation was first blocked 3 months ago by Senate Republicans after they argued the bill was too broad. The bill would establish broad protections and nationwide rights for individuals to access in vitro fertilization and expand insurance coverage for fertility treatments. Republican presidential candidate Trump said in August he would require the government or insurance companies to pay for IVF if he is elected. And Russian activist Vladimir Kara-Murza, recently freed from a Siberian prison in a high-profile prisoner swap, addressed U.S. lawmakers and diplomats. After serving part of a 25-year sentence for treason, Kara-Murza was released following a relentless campaign by U.S. lawmakers who condemned his arrest for speaking out against Russia. Kara-Murza said the word surreal doesn't even come close to describing what he feels now. His release coincides with Senator Ben Cardin's introduction of the Bridge Act aimed at protecting Russian and Belarusian dissidents by funding independent media and civil society efforts. And top Russian security official Sergei Shoigu met President Masoud Pezeshkian in Tehran following his recent meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Shoigu also held talks with his Iranian counterpart Ali Akbar Ahmadian during his visit. Shoigu's trips are taking place at a crucial moment in the 2.5-year conflict as Kyiv presses the United States and its allies to let it use Western-supplied long-range weapons. The United States views the growing relationship with concern and says both countries are supplying Russia with ballistic missiles for use in the conflict, something Moscow denies. Apart from meeting North Korea's king last week, he also held talks in St. Petersburg with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. And in a high-level meeting with the head of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov accused Ukraine of widespread humanitarian rights violations during the ongoing 2.5-year conflict. Lavrov outlined Ukraine's alleged mistreatment of prisoners and civilians. In response, ICRC President Mirjana Spoljaric emphasized the importance of all nations upholding international humanitarian law, including allowing POW visits, and called for protection of aid workers after 3 ICRC staff were killed in recent shelling. Discussions also addressed humanitarian issues in the West Asia and Africa. Meanwhile, Ukraine has requested UN and ICRC involvement in the Kursk region, where Ukrainian forces remain after a recent incursion amid ongoing tensions between the two nations. And still to come on DD India News Hour. North Korea fired missiles off East Coast in latest show of force after Kim visited uranium facility. Ahead of the upcoming Sri Lankan presidential election 2024, campaigning for election reaches a fever pitch. And amid worst drought in southern region of Africa, Zimbabwe plans to cull 200 elephants, first time since 1987, to feed communities. Welcome back. You're watching Diddy India News. I'm Lepakshi Kuran, and moving on, North Korea fired a missile off its east coast on Wednesday, days after North Korea unveiled a uranium enrichment facility and vowed to beef up its nuclear arsenal. Japan's defense ministry said the North appears to have used a ballistic missile, and Japan's Coast Guard said the missile was believed to have already landed in sea and urged vessels to watch out for falling objects. The South Korean military also confirmed the firing of multiple short-range ballistic missiles. It did not provide further details, including the exact number of missiles launched. The latest launch also came days after the country for the first time showed images of centrifuges that produce fuel for its nuclear bombs, as leader Kim Jong-un visited a uranium enrichment facility and called for more weapons-grade material to boost the arsenal. And Japan criticized North Korea after Pyongyang launched multiple short-range ballistic missiles for the second time in under a week. Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary Hiroshi Moriya said the missiles had landed outside of Japan's territory and the country's exclusive economic zone. He said no damage to vessels or aircraft was reported.
There is currently no confirmation of any damage to aircraft or vessels traveling in the vicinity. North Korea's development of nuclear missiles is a threat to the peace and security of our country and the international community, and it is absolutely unacceptable. Regarding this launch, we have made a firm objection to North Korea through diplomatic channels in Beijing, and we strongly condemned it.
While campaigning for Sri Lanka's presidential election has gained momentum, with candidates making their final push to attract the voters. The top contenders have been conducting meetings and rallies in various locations, tackling a variety of issues. As the incumbent president Ranil Wickremesinghe seeks a re-election as an independent, he's challenged by opposition leader Sajid Premadasa from the Samagi Jan Balavegaya and Anura Kumara Dasanayaka from the leftist National People's Power Alliance. 38 candidates are in the fray. No women candidate is contesting the election. This in spite of the fact that women make up 52% of more than 17 million electorate. Since the country introduced the universal franchise in 1931, the number of women in parliament has never crossed 7%. Today, they are just 5.3% of its 225 members and historically held only a fraction of cabinet positions. And in Bangladesh, the interim government led by Professor Muhammad Yunus has given the power of executive magistrate to the commissioned officers of the Bangladesh Army in order to improve law and order. Well, the eligible army officers will be able to act as executive magistrates under the supervision of district magistrates nationwide for the next 60 days. The army magistrates will oversee activities related to offences under various sections of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1898. Despite the formation of the interim government, since the ousting of Sheikh Hasina government, the army remains deployed across the country to maintain law and order situation, as police and its other agencies were not in a position to do so. Well, also, the fact-finding team of the UN Human Rights Office has invited individuals, groups and organizations to give first-hand information of human rights violations and abuses committed in Bangladesh between 1st of July and 15th of August. The fact-finding team is mandated to establish facts, identify responsibilities, analyze root causes and make concrete recommendations for Bangladesh to address past human rights violations and prevent their recurrence. The first-hand information that is not already on social media or otherwise in the public domain can be submitted to submissions@un.org. The team also plans to conduct interviews with victims, law enforcement officers, medical practitioners and witnesses. And an Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group on Tuesday claimed responsibility for a deadly attack in Mali's capital, Bamako. The country's general staff later said that the attack killed a number of military personnel but did not give a detailed toll. It confirmed that a gendarme's training center and the Sintis airport were targeted. The authorities also said that the cowardly and treacherous attack caused some loss of human lives, adding that the attack had been repelled and the situation was rapidly brought under control. Well, a march led by former Bolivian President Evo Morales escalated into clashes after a group of opponents attempted to block the road in the capital. Morales launched the march to protest against President Luis Arce's government, citing economic stagnation as the main grievance. Morales announced a week-long march after Arce accused him on national TV of trying to overthrow his government in a coup attempt. And moving on, Venezuela has arrested a fourth American citizen since the start of this month without naming the person detained. The American was arrested after taking photos of military units, power stations and state entities. Spain asked Venezuela for information regarding the arrest of 2 Spaniards, 3 U.S. citizens and a Czech, following reports they were detained over an alleged plan to destabilize the country. And the U.S. government is investigating whether China is supporting Russia's nuclear industry by importing enriched uranium from Russia and exporting its own to the U.S., despite a recent ban on Russian uranium imports. The ban, enacted in December 2023, aims to disrupt Russian President Vladimir Putin's war funding. After the ban, Chinese uranium shipments to the U.S. surged, raising concerns that China may be circumventing the restrictions. U.S. officials are closely monitoring imports to ensure compliance, as any circumvention could weaken efforts to reduce dependence on Russian fuel and boost domestic uranium production. China's imports of Russian uranium have significantly increased, raising suspicions that it might be exporting this fuel as it builds more reactors domestically. And rapper Sean Diddy Combs has been jailed by Manhattan court in connection with the racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking indictment. We have a report.
Superstar rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs pleaded not guilty on Tuesday to racketeering and sex trafficking charges and was ordered to remain in custody pending a trial. Combs was arrested by federal agents in New York on Monday evening and accused in a just unsealed 3-count criminal indictment alleging he sexually abused women and coerced them into drug-fueled sex parties using threats and violence. Along with racketeering, conspiracy and sex trafficking, Combs is charged with 1 count of transporting victims across state lines to engage in prostitution. The indictment alleges that for decades Combs abused, threatened and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation and conceal his conduct. It accused him of running a criminal enterprise that carried out sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery and obstruction of justice. Combs allegedly engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of verbal, emotional, physical and sexual abuse of women, the indictment said. The floodgates opened last year after singer Cassie alleged Combs subjected her to more than a decade of coercion by physical force and drugs, as well as a 2018 rape. The rapper's luxury homes in Miami and Los Angeles were raided by agents in March. Disturbing surveillance video emerged in May showing Combs physically assaulting his then-girlfriend Ventura, corroborating allegations she made in the now settled case. Bureau Report, DD India.
And in Nepal, devotees gathered at Basantapur Darbar Square to celebrate the grand festival of Indra Jatra in the capital city of Kathmandu. The cultural and historical event saw President Ramchandra Paudel arriving at Hanuman Dhoka to take part in the festivities. In his address, President Paudel emphasized the significance of Indra Jatra, noting that the festival is a tribute to God Indra for a bountiful harvest, symbolizing the connections between humans and nature. He further highlighted the importance of such traditional festivals and preserving ancient civilizations. The festival, which will run until 21st of September, is celebrated to honor Indra, the god of rains and good harvest, and the living goddess Kumari. The celebrations include a chariot procession of Lord Ganesha and Bhairav across the city. Well, the African continent, especially its southern region, is witnessing the worst drought in 4 decades, with 68 million people without food and crops wiped out. Zimbabwe is planning to cull 200 elephants from across the country, and this is taking place for the first time since 1987. The aim is to feed communities in areas affected by the El Nino-induced drought. The cull will be taking place in the Hwange, Mabaya, Sholto and Chiredzi districts and comes close to neighboring Namibia's decision last month to cull 83 elephants and give meat to people impacted by the drought. And now, a latest weather wrap. Let us look on the current situation of severe weather conditions caused by unprecedented levels of rainfall, drought and wildfires around the globe. Well, Portugal is currently battling over 50 active wildfires and has mobilized around 5,300 firefighters, while also seeking help from the European Union. Authorities have closed several motorways and suspended train services on 2 northern railway lines. The Peruvian Amazon has been the hardest hit by wildfires ravaging across the country. Peruvian government used helicopters to drop water tanks on the areas affected by the fires. So far, the fires have claimed the lives of 15, left 98 injured people and devastated 2,257 hectares of natural areas. Meanwhile, flood waters continued to rise in the Polish town of Lebanon. Townspeople waded through water while others moved through the streets on rafts as emergency services took them to safety. Firefighters and military personnel used amphibious vehicles, diggers, boats to carry people out of the flooded areas. Also, a whole village near the northern Hungarian region was submerged following a flood wave that struck overnight. The village saw its residents resorting to boats to navigate the flooded region. Authorities have put mobile dams in place to limit flooding from the Danube. The deluge has left a trail of destruction from Romania to Poland. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. SpaceX successfully launched its Falcon 9 rocket carrying the European Commission's Galileo L13 mission from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. This marks the 22nd flight for this Falcon 9 first-stage booster. The Galileo satellites, part of the mission, are managed and operated by the European Union Agency for the Space Programme on behalf of the EU. Holidaymakers have been amazed by the magnificent Quentang River tidal bore in Haining city of East China's Zhejiang province as the Silver Dragon ushers in its best viewing season around the traditional Mid-Autumn Festival. A tidal bore is a phenomenon where the leading edge of an incoming tide creates a wave that surges up a river against the flow. The upcoming Hush Beach concert in November will once again feature a large open-air yoga session at Haxa Beach, showcasing local and international brands and musicians, as well as renowned yoga instructors. Various outreach activities will take place in the Barra district as well, such as electronic music parties and workshops. A partial lunar eclipse offered sky watchers in many parts of the world a captivating celestial display. The partial lunar eclipse coincided with the September full moon, known as the harvest moon. This full moon is also a supermoon, appearing slightly larger and brighter than usual due to its closer proximity to the Earth. And still to come in Diddy India News Hour. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will launch the NPS Vatsalya Yojana New Delhi today to provide a strong financial foundation to all the children of the country. Doctors to continue cease work over RG car incident want fresh talks with state government. Bill Gates says malnutrition is vastly underfunded, praises India's efforts to promote the cultivation of millets.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says supply creates its own demand between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khuranan. Time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Death toll in Lebanon's pager blast rises to 9,000 injured as hundreds of pagers used by Hezbollah members exploded on Tuesday. Hezbollah blames Israel. No comment from Tel Aviv. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrives in Cairo as urgency to achieve a ceasefire deal in Gaza takes prominence. Lufthansa and Air France suspend flights to Tel Aviv, Tehran and Beirut as tensions in the region soar. Voting underway for the 24 Assembly constituencies in India's Jammu and Kashmir for first phase polls. Assembly elections in the region are the first since abrogation of Article 370 in 2019. And in sports, in the 7th round of the chess Olympiad, the Indian men's team faced China while the women's team to take on Georgia. After 6 consecutive wins, India is eyeing its first ever gold medal in the tournament. And rapper Sean Diddy Combs jailed by Manhattan court in connection with the racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking indictment. Music mogul pleads not guilty. And moving on, voting for the first phase of Assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir is underway. 11.11% voter turnout was recorded till 9 a.m. as per the Election Commission of India. Special polling stations are also set up in the national capital, New Delhi, for Kashmiri migrant voters. Voting, which began at 7 a.m., will continue till 6 p.m. as per Indian Standard Time. This is the first election in the Union Territory after the abrogation of Article 370 of the Indian Constitution. More than 23 lakh voters are eligible to press the EVM button, determining the fate of 219 candidates spread across 7 districts. 24 of its total 90 constituencies are going to hustings in round 1 of 3-phase assembly elections. All SOPs of Election Commission are being followed in the Union Territory. Arrangements have been made for webcasting at every polling station and cameras have been installed to monitor polling. That will be from the control room. District Administration Kulgam has set up an election control room to monitor the election process in the district. The assembly polls in Jammu and Kashmir are being held in 3 phases, the 2nd on September 25th and the 3rd on the 1st of October. Votes will be counted on the 8th of October. And Diddy India's Shabir Dar joins us from Kulgaon on this. Well, Shabir, after a decade-long wait in J&K, long queues being seen after electrifying campaigns in the State House, the voting going on. Give us some live updates and what is the level of enthusiasm there?
Yeah, the voting is going on smoothly since morning. You know, we have seen long queues outside the polling booths. There's a huge enthusiasm among voters, particularly among the youngsters who will be casting their vote for the first time. So I've spoken to many voters in different areas of Kulgam district where I am presently. So there is a huge enthusiasm. Youth are saying that the elections are happening for the first time after the abrogation of Article 370, and it has been a 10 years gap that people are getting the chance to vote for, constituting the local assembly, and people have pinning high hopes with these elections because the day-to-day issues of people, be the employment for the youth or the developmental issues, people see that such issues can only be resolved through the participation in a democratic process. And this is a monumental, show of democracy in Jammu and Kashmir because we have seen in the recently held parliament elections how hugely people have participated. And this time around, as we see that till 9:30, over 11% people have cast their vote. This shows that as the day progresses, Jammu and Kashmir will have a record-breaking participation in the elections in the first phase, because we have seen that the people are coming in droves from every segment of the society, be it the elders, youngsters, women, and employees. We have seen all people coming out for participation, and there's a huge competitive politics which we have seen in these elections, because every party has tried, as you rightly said, there was an electrifying campaign, and every political party tried its best to garner maximum support in their favor.
Right,
and
Shabir.
that is being translated today in the param of votes, as we have seen large queues outside polling booths.
Right, Shabir, indeed a great day for the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Tell us more about the security arrangements there.
Yeah, ample and heavy security arrangements are in place, because we have seen in recent past that in Jammu sector there is an uptick in the terror activities. So keeping that in mind, the Election Commission and the local administration have kept tight security arrangements in place. The drones are being used in sensitive areas. 3-tier security arrangements are outside in polling booths. So every measure is being taken to ensure that peaceful and secure polling happens in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right, Shabir, thank you so much for all those details from there. And moving on, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is going to launch the NPS Vatsalya scheme in New Delhi on Wednesday. NPS Vatsalya is a financial investment that parents or guardians can make on behalf of their minor children, with minimum contribution of 1,000 rupees per year and no limit on maximum contribution. It will serve as a meaningful way to provide them with financial support until they start earning and investing on their own. NPS Vatsalya events will be organized simultaneously at nearly 75 locations throughout the country. This scheme was announced in the Union Budget 2024-25. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting the United States of America from September 21st to 23rd. During the visit, Prime Minister Modi will take part in the 4th Quad Leaders Summit in Wilmington, Delaware, which is being hosted by the US President Biden on the 21st of September. At the Quad Summit, the leaders will review the progress achieved by the Quad over the last 1 year and set the agenda for the year ahead to assist the countries of the Indo-Pacific region in meeting their developmental goals and aspirations. Prime Minister Modi will address the Summit of the Future at the United Nations General Assembly in New York on September 23rd. The theme of the summit is Multilateral Solutions for a Better Tomorrow. A large number of global leaders are expected to participate in the summit. On the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister would be holding bilateral meetings with several world leaders and discuss issues of mutual interest. Meanwhile, at a campaign event in Michigan, former US President Donald Trump said he will meet India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi next week.
He happens to be coming to meet me next week. And Modi, he's fantastic. I mean, fantastic man. A lot of these leaders are fantastic. You have to understand one thing. They're 100%. These people are the sharpest people. They're not a little bit backward. They are at the top. You know the expression, they're at the top of their game.
Well, billionaire Bill Gates has said malnutrition is vastly underfunded and often ignored. In an interview given to the Hindustan Times, an Indian newspaper, Gates said that the issue of malnutrition has not been researched well and an understanding of nourishment was only discovered in the last decade. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation releases Goalkeepers Report every September that tracks the progress on a sustainable development goals. This year, the report focused on malnutrition. Gates then praised India's effort to promote the cultivation of millets, underlining the fact that millets play a role in an overall balanced, nutritious diet. He also highlighted efforts by India's efforts to raise the productivity of millets. Bill Gates also appreciated India's improved mortality rates. He said that once we hit the pandemic, some countries went backwards, although India continued to make progress on improving mortality rates. And Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar will be the chief guest at the valedictory ceremony of 4th Global Reinvest 2024 underway in Gujarat. The event saw record investments worth 32.45 lakh crore in the form of Shapath Patra being pledged by 2030. Diddy India speaks to New and Renewable Energy Minister Prahlad Joshi, who highlighted that the event was turned out to be a huge success. Take a look.
So when we're talking at the Reinvest Summit, we are on the second day of the meet. We have been seeing reactions from various stakeholders, be it officials and delegations who have come from different parts of the world. What are the reactions that you catch and what are the major takeaways?
One is takeaway is commitment of such a huge investment, 32.5 lakh crore का जो investment का है, जो state और financial institution, banker, they have all put together, they have committed, they have given Shapat Patra. Along with that, states have given 520 gigawatt of the commitment. And this commitment, what we asked for the pledge, Shapat Patra, that we had asked, that was a voluntary. We had told them, you just consider our request, and if you can plan and come that how much you are going to add in the renewable sector, renewable energy, that will be really good for you and good for the country also. That was the request was made. Accordingly, they have come. The states have voluntarily they have committed. At least majority of the state they have committed, and 7 chief ministers personally they came. More than 10-12 ministers they were here. And almost all the representative of the state, like additional chief secretary and secretary level, all those people were here. And overall, if I can say, both in presence and commitment, this is the most successful.
While moving on, the protesting doctors at Kolkata's Arjikar Medical College and Hospital, where a trainee doctor was raped and killed, announced that they will continue their strike until all their demands are met, including the removal of the health secretary. The agitating medicals also sought fresh talks with the government a day after holding meetings with Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. The doctors made the announcement after a 5-hour-long governing body meeting held late on Monday. Seeking a new round of talks, the doctors on Tuesday said that the government should provide them with a democratic environment and also listed fresh demands. Meanwhile, a local court in West Bengal has approved the Central Bureau of Investigation appeal for extending the police custody of former Arjikar Medical College Principal Sandeep Ghosh and Tala Police Station Officer in charge Abhijit Mondal by 3 days. During the hearing on Tuesday, the CBI lawyer stated that Ghosh and Mondal are subjected to further investigation regarding call recording, DVR, CCTV and other data related to the case, and that custodial interrogation was required in this case. The two were arrested by CBI on Saturday in connection with accusations of tampering with evidence, misleading the investigation and delaying the FIR. They were initially produced before the judge on Sunday and remanded in CBI custody for 3 days. On Tuesday, the judge extended their CBI custody by 3 more days. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Indian Army unveiled Himdrone-a-thon 2 to revolutionize high-altitude operations through the use of drones. This pioneering initiative aims to tap into the power of cutting-edge indigenous technology, focusing on enhancing operational efficiency and tactical superiority in some of the most challenging terrains on the planet through the use of drones within the ambit of Atmanirbhar Bharat. As a part of Onam celebrations, young dancer Marina Antony brought Ganga to the stage at the Regional Theatre of the Kerala Sangeet Natak Academy. Ganga was presented in a classical Bharatanatyam style with simplified gestures and expressions. This approach allowed even those unfamiliar with the intricacies of classical dance to enjoy and understand it easily. On the auspicious occasion of Anant Chaturdashi, the Indore city witnessed the 101st year of the tableau tradition. Thousands witnessed stunning tableau featuring various mythological stories crafted by the textile mill workers, continuing the city's cherished heritage. Indian citizens bid a grand farewell to Lord Ganesha as the 10-day Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations culminated on Tuesday. The highlight of Visarjan this year were the colourful processions, which included DJs playing bhajans, drum and dhol beats, and group of dancers accompanied by a large number of devotees. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Nepal Mountaineering Association requests its government to open 57 more peaks for climbers. And Liverpool, Real Madrid, beyond Munich kick-off Champions League phase campaign with wins. Also, we'll show you the new attraction point for bird watchers and photography enthusiasts as it hosts hundreds of flamingos.
complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khurana, and time now for some business news. Business news में overnight gains on Wednesday, falling gains on Wall Street that saw both the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average reach new highs. Asian markets swung between gains and losses on Wednesday as traders tried to ascertain how big an expected Federal Reserve interest rate cut would be later in the day, while the dollar held gains against the yen after forecast beating U.S. data, while the U.S. Central Bank is widely expected to slash borrowing costs for the first time since the start of the pandemic. The big question is on whether officials will go on for a bumper move before a series of smaller ones into the new year. Meta Platforms is rolling out enhanced privacy and parental controls for Instagram accounts of users under 18. The company said that Meta will port all designated Instagram accounts automatically to teen accounts, which will be private accounts by default. Users of such accounts can only be messaged and tagged by accounts they follow or are already connected to, while sensitive content settings will be dialed to the most restrictive available. Users under 16 can change the default settings only with the parents' permission. Parents will also get a suite of settings to monitor who their children are engaging with and limit their use of the app. The move aimed at addressing growing concerns around the negative effects of social media. And moving on, Boeing and its largest union will resume contract talks on Wednesday in the presence of federal mediators after failing to agree on key issues of wages and pensions on Tuesday. The union for striking Boeing workers said on Tuesday the aviation giant was not taking mediation seriously after some 33,000 U.S. employees walked out last week over a contract dispute, effectively shutting down two Seattle area plants. The rejected four-year deal concluded a general wage increase of 25%, far lower than the 40% workers had demanded. Boeing had also offered a commitment to build its next commercial airplane in the Seattle area. A long strike could further damage Boeing's finances, already groaning due to a $60 billion debt pile. And you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. In chess, Olympiad 2024, India dominated open and women's sections after 6 rounds in Budapest. Today, round 7 matches will be played in Budapest. Another 5 rounds remain, but India is well placed to score a double and even to improve upon the bronze medal it won in both sections of the previous edition of the Olympiad. Indian men's and women team go into round 7 of the 45th FIDE Chess Olympiad with sole lead. In round 6, it was Arjun Erigaisi who once again played a key role for the men's team. After D. Gukesh and R. Pragananda drew on the top 2 boards with Richard Rappert and Peter Lecco respectively, India needed a win on the 3rd board. Arjun duly gave his team that. India, the only team to have won all the matches in the women's 45th FIDE Chess Olympiad, led after Divya Deshmukh scored on board 3 to defeat Armenia. That proved the most valuable point of round 6 for her team. Without a win, India would not have won the match. And in football, holders Real Madrid started its UEFA Champions League trophy defense with a 3-1 win over Stuttgart on Tuesday night. Superstar Kylian Mbappe scored on his first Champions League appearances for Real Madrid. Dennis Undav levelled Mbappe's opener in the second half. Antonio Rudiger headed home in the 83rd minute to give lead to the 15-time European champions. Debutant Endrick wrapped up Madrid's win with a low drive in stoppage time. Endrick became Real Madrid's youngest Champions League goal scorer. At 18 years and 58 days, the Brazilian broke the record set by club legend Raul in 1995, who scored against Ferencváros, aged 18 years and 113 days. And beyond Munich striker Harry Kane scored 4 goals to lead his side to a 9-2 demolition of visitors Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League on Tuesday night. With this, Harry Kane became the highest-scoring English player in the competition's history with 33 goals. In a game that set a record for most goals in a Champions League match, Bjorn struck 3 times in the first half, with Kane converting a 19th-minute penalty. Rafael Guerreiro drilled home from a superb Jamal Musiala assist in the 33rd, and Michel Olès added another 5 minutes later. England captain Kane bagged his 3rd and 4th goals with penalties in the 73rd and 78th minute. Leroy Sane added another in the 85th before fellow substitute Leon Goretzka headed in their record-breaking 9th, the most scored in the competition. And Liverpool claimed a 3-1 victory of AC Milan on their Champions League return. Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahima Konate proved vital at both ends as they guided Liverpool to a win against AC Milan in their opening Champions League game of the season. Liverpool were playing their first Champions League match in 18 months after spending last season in the Europa League. It was a happy return ever after a shaky opening, which may have had a few Reds fans worrying about the start of the slump. The Nepal Mountaineering Association has requested its government to open 57 more peaks for climbers at the 34th annual general meeting of the Nepal Mountaineering Association in Kathmandu on Tuesday. There are more than 2,000 mountain peaks in Nepal, with 8 mountains which are 8,000 meters high. Out of the total high mountains, only 405 are open for climbers. On the issue of increased air accidents in Nepal, its Minister for Tourism, Culture and Civil Aviation, Badri Prasad Pandey, said that the government will take all measures to improve safety and enhance the credibility of the aviation sector. The increased number of air accidents has forced the government to take action to secure air travel, as tourism is the main source of building up the economy and is a job creator. And defending champions India secured a hard-fought 1-0 victory over host China to claim their 5th Asian Champions Trophy hockey title in Ulaanbaatar. The Paris Olympic bronze medalists faced a daunting task as they failed to break the Chinese defense in the first 3 quarters. Eventually, Jugraj Singh broke the stalemate, scoring a field goal to take the title.
India's men's hockey team clinched a record-extending 5th Asian Champions Trophy title after they edged past China 1-0 in the final. Defending champions India stamped their authority on the tournament. They not only remained unbeaten but also reaffirmed their status as the foremost hockey nation of the continent. The men in blue faced a tough contest as they struggled to break through China's strong defense for the first 3 quarters. In the 4th quarter, Jugraj Singh broke the deadlock with a superb strike. Skipper Harmanpreet Singh breached the Chinese defense from the right, passed the ball to Jugraj, and he netted the ball. India had an exemplary run in the tournament. They defeated China 3-0, beat Japan 5-1, thrashed Malaysia 8-1, outclassed South Korea 3-1, overcame Pakistan 2-1, thumped South Korea 4-1 in the semis, and edged past China 1-0 in the final. Hockey India congratulated the Indian team and posted on X, "Congratulations to the Indian men's hockey team on clinching their record-breaking 5th Asian Champions Trophy title." With a hard-fought 1-0 victory over China, India have not only retained their crown from 2023 but also solidified their position as the most successful team in the tournament's history. This back-to-back triumph echoes their golden run from 2016 to 2018, showcasing India's consistent dominance in Asian hockey. India played its 6th Asian Champions Trophy hockey final, while China made their maiden appearance in the final. India are the most successful team in the competition with 5 wins. India secured titles in 2011, 2016, 2018, shared with Pakistan, 2023 and now 2024. This trophy marks the end of highly successful 2024 for the Indian hockey team, which was obviously highlighted by the bronze medal at the Paris Olympics. Sports Desk, DD India.
Well, the Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi congratulated men's hockey team for winning the Asian Champions Trophy 2024. PM Modi praised their performance and commitment, saying that the team has made the country proud. The Prime Minister posted on X, and I quote, "Congratulations to the incredible Indian men's hockey team for winning the Asian Men's Hockey Champions Trophy 2024. Their remarkable performance, unwavering spirit and dedication have made the nation proud," unquote. And Lake Arin in Turkey's east has become the next attraction point for bird watchers and photography enthusiasts as it hosts hundreds of flamingos during this time of the year. Lake Arin, known as a bird paradise, is home to nearly 200 bird species. The flamingos, which come from Iran's Urmia Lake every year and stay in Lake Arin, fascinate with their images. Although it is a small lake, it is an amazing nesting site for flamingos, set against the backdrop of Mount Sufin and close to Lake Van, the largest lake in Turkey. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lepakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.